So welcome everybody to Humpday Exchange, where we exchange your answers,
No,
your questions for their answers. There you go. Got that backwards. Woo, long week.
I know.
And our host, Elizabeth, is in person at the Cleveland County Dems, and we have Michael online, and then our special guest, Senator Mary Boren.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, welcome. Can y'all hear everybody okay?
Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Good.
Okay,
All right.
Good.
No issues, Michael. Hearing
No,
us?
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Okay, perfect.
Yay.
And who has the first question?
Well, I do. So let's go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Kind of let us know, what your area is, what you're doing, and then we'll kind of get into what your special interests are, like your main focuses.
Yeah. So I'm State Senator Mary Boren. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk at the camera.
Either.
Sure.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, when you work with TV people, they always want you to look at the reporter, and the reporter's usually like right there, and they hate it when you look in the camera. But
Yeah.
I can look in the camera.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. I'm State Senator Mary Boren, and I am the Democratic senator for Senate District 16. And it was started off being Norman, Lexington, Slaughterville, and Noble. But then in 2020, it got redrawn just to pretty much Norman. There's a little bit of Noble in it, but not that much. And so it's what we call Core Norman, which is the football stadium and 80,000 people around that. And on Friday, I hear we're having a game in Norman, and the buzz has already started. So I have a lot of professors and graduate students and alumnus who went to OU and retired OU people who are my constituents. And then I also have a lot of really folks that work at OU or around OU or in Norman Public Schools that are my constituents as well. So that's Norman.
Yay. Awesome. I love that. So can you kind of let us know kind of what some of your key focuses are? Like we know like education, healthcare, because you're an educator.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And an attorney.
Yes.
I want to be Senator Boren when I grow up. So in case you were wondering. But no, that's really exciting, right? Because it's, you're educated, not only on a legal standpoint, but healthcare and education kind of all wrapped into one. And that's what we need, right? Like we want to know, where you're at with that and like where you come from. Like, why does that make that important for you?
Yes. So, I got my law degree from the University of Oklahoma. And then I wanted to help stop the school to prison pipeline. So I became a school counselor. And, that was a very rewarding 5 years of my life. But unfortunately, I didn't get to do as much preventative work as I'd like because of school testing. And so then I returned back to practicing law, and then I was elected to become a state senator. But I'm also married to a family physician. So he got his training at OU, and we've been married since 1992. So it's been and so he started medicine before the internet was really going and before electronic records,
right.
Before you could do the portal with all, how everybody looks on the portal and gets their health stuff. So he was before that all the way through it, and now he's on this end of it. So yes, I do care a lot about making sure that we have providers who want to stay in Oklahoma. I'm very concerned that a lot of our culture war stuff has really ran off a lot of really good physicians. Also, right now, as we speak, there's a town hall going on right now about the request for proposals in the mental health, community-based mental health centers. And a lot of our mental health providers are really concerned about that. I'm a big advocate for mental health care, and my father benefited greatly from that. Good mental health care made it so where I even was able to have a daddy as he aged. So very grateful for that. But some of the main, that's the kind of what I came to the Capitol with. But unfortunately, in the super minority party, you don't always get to drive the engine in the way that you want it to go. So I have some areas that I've seen an intersection between a progressive worldview and the way Oklahoma likes to do things, and that's kind of in the realm of conservation. So Oklahomans love the outdoors. They want clean water. We also are an energy state, so most Oklahomans have some comprehension of energy policy. And if you're a landowner in Oklahoma, you definitely do.
Right.
And now that renewables are coming on board, I'm very excited about the way to use land for agriculture and energy production.
Nice.
And we're at the cusp of starting to develop some policies and make it so where you don't have to choose between one or the other.
Right, right.
So that's been kind of interesting. But then also the turnpike has been a big issue that just kind of got dropped in my lap. All of us
Ooh,
in
wow.
Norman,
Yeah.
you know, when I ran for office, I had no clue or just thought that my district would be targeted with a turnpike. But when it happened, the same thing that I've always done is I try to empower citizens to make government work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, then I just started explaining to my folks how to navigate the Capitol, how to get bills heard, how to work through the court system to hold the legislature accountable. So that's kind of been my experience. I also serve on the Judiciary Committee, and this last session we were able to, me and Senator Brooks were instrumental, along with our colleagues across the aisle, in stopping some pretty bad bills. So we voted down 3 bills in Judiciary this last session. So I was grateful for that. And I can say, though, I also help the other side of the aisle to make their bills better and, you know, offer suggestions to make those things better.
Right.
And finally, I got a foraging bill passed. So you can forage on state property. So
What?
yeah.
How did I not know about that one?
I know. I'm pretty sure I made like a whole. That's like.
That sounds like an Elisa thing. Elisa would love that.
Right? I was like, wait, what? Well, because I was kind of curious, like with the renewable energy, like how is that going to work for us in Oklahoma when stuff is rolling downhill that is kind of becoming a barrier for some of that. So whether it's renewable energy, whether it's the justice system, whether it's mental health, physical health care, wellness, all of that, like so many things. Like how are we going to be able to work with that in Oklahoma? The caveat, though, I do want to bring up, though, is that you were able to tell our viewers and our constituents of make the government work for you.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You're allowed to go to the Capitol. You're allowed, like, I can Google Senator Mary Boren, Oklahoma, and it will bring it up, and there'll be a link, and it will tell me what room she's in, what the address is, what the email is. But I had to be taught that. And so to hear that from a sitting representative, like an elected official saying, please come see me.
Right.
Absolutely.
And also, you know, one thing that we have happening, right, like I just said, we're having a town hall. So a big issue popped up, you know, and before it was a turnpike, and now it's the mental health centers going private and the request for proposals. So folks in Norman know, oh, this is a big issue. Let's have a town hall. And people think that me, Jared, or Annie, or Jacob plan these. We don't.
Right.
They know how to pull it together. It's like planning a tailgate. It's like you have the tailgate and then you invite people to your tailgate. That's the way a town hall is.
Yep.
So you just need, often there's churches that will allow, especially those that, the neat thing about more progressive churches is they're used to doing social justice.
Right.
And so they have spaces that they're willing to open up for things like that. So if they know it's about mental health and they care about that in their community, then they often will open it up to either people in the community or members of their church. And right now I think they're over at St. Joseph's, the Episcopal Church off of Duffy. And we've done it at St. Michael's, which is another Episcopal church on the west side of town.
Okay.
So, but we've also had town halls at Cross Point. We've had them at libraries. So any time that there's a space, we've done them outside when the weather's been nice. We've had a lot of vigils. In Norman, at one of our parks, we kind of have an amphitheater, and we did a town hall there. So I think people need to understand that you can invite people to come see a legislator. So if you had a reception in your home and you wanted to invite your neighbors or your precinct officials, all of those things work too. And we're but we can't, if we organize it, then it seems like it's less real.
Right.
Than when community members, or it's more organic if we're invited than if we can tell you what you need, like what's in the little toolkit, but it's better if just regular folks invite us. And Mary Salee is a piano teacher here, and she plays piano. She's wonderful. She plays all over the place. But she would often have a meet the candidates thing in her home.
Nice.
And we'd show up, and 15, 20 people from the neighborhood would show up at our house. And it was a wonderful event. And we'd much rather talk to them than try to knock doors and try to guess who's going to open and who's going to, talk to us back. So you all have a lot of power. And letters to the editor, people can do that. And talk to some of these. Figured it out. You can call this paper and find out how many words it needs to be to submit a letter. And a letter to the editor and an opinion piece are different. So you can just call the editor to your newspaper, and that would be a good person to come.
Wow.
Yeah. Have them come over and tell you like what their parameters are for letters to the editor and things like that. So.
Andy Rieger still have the Northern transcript?
No, not anymore. They sold
Telling my
it,
age.
and then we've had 2 editors. We're on our 2nd editor since him.
Oh my goodness. Michael, you got a question?
I know he does.
I do. So Senator, so sorry I couldn't be there in person. Wanted to keep everybody safe. I'm still coming back from a little illness, but
Well, I'm glad that you're getting better.
thank you. So my first question is, so when you were first running for election, you stated your top 3 priorities were to restore voter trust, stabilize the budget, and support every school and student. How do you feel, how confident are you we're able to hold up to those 3 priorities, and if there is anything that you would change nowadays, if there's anything you would like to add to that?
Okay, so remind me of those 3 again.
To restore voter trust, stabilize the budget, and support every school and student.
Okay, so as far as restoring voter trust, I do that every day. I think one way to do that is to be responsive. And even with people who don't have the same political priorities as my district, the majority of my district, I want people to know that they deserve the same access and the same tool set to hold government accountable, even for their priorities. Even if their priorities may not be the majority in Senate District 16, they may be for another district, or they might be for the state. So, making making sure I return calls, making sure I return emails, making sure that I explain to people how things work, and who they can talk to. Sometimes I suggest that, hey, I think this senator over here would be, because of the committees that I sit on and my members of my caucus, that I might not be the strongest candidate or the strongest legislator to carry that bill. So I also try to restore trust in voting with the increasing the quality of people that work during elections. I did a notary. I don't know if y'all remember during COVID, I trained a lot of people how to become a notary. And I think I had 2 big Zoom trainings, and I showed them how to notarize an absentee ballot. during COVID. And so now we have and then I also actually got the Secretary of State to put on their website where you could find a notary. That before they didn't have that, and now notaries can register with your county election board that you'll do notary, so people can know where to go to get their ballots notarized. So anybody can put their notary on that website. So I did that. I have a bill this session to try to get counties more money to increase in-person absentee ballot. It's early voting is what we call it, but it's technically in-person absentee. So it means that you're showing up in person, but you're not showing up on the Tuesday. You're showing up at a different time. So you're absent from election day, but you're in person at another time. And so I'm trying to I did an interim study for that and found out that counties probably could benefit from more upfront money to have more early voting sites, because there's some expenses associated with it that some counties don't have those resources to be able to make that happen. So I think I did pretty good on that one. On stabilizing the budget, I have served on the education appropriations budget for the last 8 years. And that is the reason, because I serve on that committee, that's how I was able to try to get Ryan Walters to allow us to sit in on those executive sessions. And then when he showed up in front of our committee to ask for his budget, I asked him, where is the money that you're going to pay the lawyers to pay for all these lawsuits you've got going on? And he was kind of dodgy, but finally we nailed it down that it was in how he was getting money to pay for his lawyers. And then we also asked him, and I made sure it was asked, how much he was asking or requesting for Bibles. But then our committee chair, Senator Pugh, was asked in the General Appropriations Committee, which I told my Julia Kurt to ask this, is to clarify that was that line item request going to be funded or not. And Senator Pugh said on the mic in front of the whole committee, no, we're not gonna process that. I also, behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know, but when OMES was also involved in that first purchase of the $25,000 worth of Bibles. After that, when Walters wanted more money, I made sure that OMES, I sent them a letter and I said, this is unconstitutional and you probably shouldn't be processing claims and wait until, because there's a lawsuit, you might ought to wait until that lawsuit is resolved before you approve. So basically, to put a cap, I blocked that lane through email and conversations around that. So I'm trying to think of, I've also did an interim study of other revenue, energy revenue. That gets really in the weeds, but that would stabilize our budget if we weren't riding the ups and downs of the oil and gas industry. We need to diversify our economic portfolio, and we could do that. We could diversify our economic portfolio if we diversify our energy portfolio. So that's why all of the above matters to me, is because if we really did all of the above energy sources and we were collecting taxes on them fairly across the board, then our revenue streams would not be up and down. It would be continuous. Just like how your electricity comes on, right, then our money could just come on if we did it appropriately. So that's why I really got involved in the renewables, is because I saw that it would diversify our political portfolio too. So by diversifying energy in Oklahoma, it diversifies our funding streams. It puts more money in all the little baskets, but it also distributes political power among others. And that way, all of our political power isn't generated from the oil and gas industry. It's also shared with wind, solar, and small nuclear and the other energy sources. And then that way, to me, it would be less chaotic
Right.
if we have more shared power throughout the state.
Now, do we actually have nuclear power here? You said small
Okay,
nuclear
so
power.
there's a thing. It's called small modular nuclear and micro nuclear. And so small modular is about like a semi truck, and it pulls in and it powers the whole thing. Doesn't have nuclear stuff in it, but it's a small, meaning it can move around. And then you can set it up, and the battery or the energy source lasts for about 25 to 30 years. And then when you have to dispose of it, it's about the size of that tub over there. And you can put it in a salt mine, and it's a lot. You don't have as much of the risk that the nuclear reactors do. So, and then the micro is a little smaller than that. And it's also kind of the same thing where you could power, I don't know, a whole big building or like big plants. There's things that need a lot of power, but that would be a really good way to get a lot of power. You could even do hydrogen with it because it churns out a lot. So then you could use electricity to make hydrogen from that. Austin, Texas is working on that. And then this last year, we passed a bill to study it. And it was interesting. I serve on the Southern Legislative Conference Energy Committee. So if you close your eyes and you think, what would it be like to go to a conference with all the legislators from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas?
They're like, okay.
Okay, but the cool part is you get to see the same people that are in the same situation that I'm in.
Right.
And I get to compare notes and see, oh, how do you handle this and how do you handle that? But the other cool thing is I get to see how I'm on the energy committee. So Senator Rader, Senator Burns, and I are the Oklahoma folks that get to sit at that little committee.
Okay.
And we actually make a really good team. Senator Burns is an electrician, and he closed 2 or 3 coal mines and through his career. And he is the one that cared a lot about nuclear, because if you pair it, operate it, not as a nuclear reactor, but like the small nuclear, where coal mines have been, you have all the electricity structures already there. And so then you can pipe it in.
Oh.
You don't have to create new transmission. So that's why he cares about that. And he got a bill passed to study it. And so then when we were at that conference, all 3 of us were able to talk about, I got to talk about agrivoltaics. He talked about nuclear, and Senator Rader talked about carbon capture. And so we did a really good job as 3. And I think they kind of have the freedom to allow a Democrat talk about the most progressive things around energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also know it's very important, but they don't have to stick their nose out and risk sounding too progressive or too, because that's the way innovation and technology is. It's always got some new horizon.
Right.
And it's an appropriate role for a Democrat to kind of be the one always looking
Right.
ahead and, planning for something new. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, and then as far as every student, I'm still for public education. Done everything I could to protect it. Of course, we've just had a horrible last 8 years when it's come to public schools. And I can say that what I have done is work with the teachers that I used to teach with here. I try to show up at their schools. I try to read to their kids. I try to visit schools. All the teachers are still able to, listen to me. I know through COVID, I talked to a lot of parents about that. and I go to lots of conferences and things around education as well to stay up to date on that and supported candidates. One thing I did with the last state superintendent election that we had is I registered a ton of voters and, really tried to, churn up the vote to try to get somebody other than Ryan Walters. So,
Right.
and we get
Yeah.
we get a do-over.
Yes.
We get to pick somebody better, and we have some good candidates out there, and we have some that aren't that great. So people are going to have to wise up and choose better.
Right. I know there's something you just said. Speaking about public education, I know that OU is not a public college, but
Yeah, it is.
well, it is, right? Okay, so
Yeah, it is.
listen, it's a long week.
You have to apply. It's not like you just roll up like a school.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to roll on up and go to OU. Like, beep, beep.
No.
So not only are we 50th in the nation in education, we now have an entire distraction, like nothing else, like being on the radar again. Where does that fall for you? How do you?
So with the graduate assistant, she was put on administrative leave,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that that's the right pronouns. Mel is a she. Okay.
Yes.
So she was put on administrative leave with pay. Wow. So that's not good, but I also am glad that there's not losing, revenue for grading a paper. And then it got taken to the governor's office. It's part of the dispute. And, I've been in Norman since 1989. And I don't recall of anybody getting their paper grade appealed to the governor. So I don't know how many people have that kind of access. I guess if your mom is an attorney and you've been, hanging out with certain people, then maybe you have that kind of access to. And I can tell you that my kids got, not all of my kids, but some of my kids didn't turn in papers and got zeros. And I never appealed to the governor of the state of Oklahoma or the president of the United States.
We can do that right now if you want. Sorry.
Yeah. So my response, because I did have constituents call me. This one, she was very upset, obviously, shocked that it could happen. I wasn't all that shocked. But I have to watch that because some of this is kind of really predictable and very old. But everybody has their moment of awakening where they realize, oh, things are hitting me now. So you can't be snarky and hateful. So that's one of the ways that I try to protect the voters' trust in government, is because they're coming at it at their moment for whatever reason. So I called her and we talked a long time, and I encouraged her. I said, you are going to have to find a group of people that care about this. How is your faculty senate? Y'all have a faculty senate. You have folks on the campus. You probably have a department. So you're going to have to work through them, and you're going to have to reach out to the regents, and you're going to have to reach out to the governor's office, and letters to the editor and things like that. And I said the alumni is also a very influential group. So you've got to let your voice be heard to those that have influence, that are either protecting the decision or have the power to change it. So I was encouraged when I saw the Association of AAUP or something like that.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
American Association of University Professors. Yeah, Michael Gibble is the president of that. I was pleased that he put something in the paper. He did a statement, or they did a statement. So I was pleased that they issued a statement about academic integrity and academic freedom of our professors. So that was good, and it encouraged me once I started seeing that they were organizing around their faculty senate and starting to come together, just to explain how they needed things to work at OU, and that how it doesn't compromise when you lose academic integrity, and you can get a grade by running to the governor, then you pretty much lost the accreditation standards. That's not going to hold up, and that's not sustainable. So that's part of the responsibility of running a university, is managing political hot potatoes without compromising academic integrity.
Right.
Right.
We'll take it. Go ahead, Michael. I think that's
Oh,
a while to get back.
oh no, I was going to touch on that integrity. I live in Norman, and I've seen some repercussions of this action. I work in property management here in Norman. Um, People are leaving OU. I don't know like the specific number of people leaving because of that, because of the accreditation. They kind of lost their integrity. People are stating that they're not going to hire students from OU, so students are leaving OU, and then therefore they're leaving our city, which then takes tax dollars out of our city and stuff like that. Is there something that we could be doing that could help future incidents like this with Turning Point USA from continuing this agenda in the school, and then um, basically just hurting the rest of the city?
Well, what do you think? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think we should be doing?
It's a tough question because it's a
What have you been paying attention to what other states or college towns have done with them?
no, not necessarily with other states, unfortunately, but
Yeah, well, that's usually where I start with something like that.
Okay.
I look at what's been successful other places. Um, I do think that because Oklahoma is such a conservative state, even OU has a lot of students that come from very, very conservative backgrounds from North Texas and the surrounding area. So I think Turning Point really relies on that safety of Oklahoma, and they find little pockets here and there that seem to be less to their liking, and then they can target those and follow through with them, projecting that they're a victim of a very liberal school. But OU is not that liberal of I mean, the professors do a good job with academic integrity, but the regents have all been appointed by Governor Stitt. They all color in the lines. They all do what they're expected to do to pay the bills and narrow the cost and narrow the risks and present things in a way that are consistent with the Oklahoma way of life. And so when it comes to that part of it, OU is surviving in a very, very hostile environment by form shifting over into as much of that as they can do without compromising academic integrity. And so those lines got really, really, really close with this most recent incident. And hopefully they will revisit the protocol, and if I read in the Oklahoma OU Daily, I don't know if y'all read that. There was an article. Y'all need to go back and read that. Did you read that, Michael? That article in the OU Daily?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, you can pull it up, but it's the OU Daily. And those little reporters over there are freaking kick ass. They did some of the best reporting on the Turnpike. They've done some really good reporting. Anyway, they had somebody say that the new policy is that whenever a professor has a complaint lodged against them, the professor will be put on administrative leave with pay. I'm like, well, y'all ain't gonna have no teachers left because everybody complains about. There's lots of, and I was joking. This is a joke, but I was talking to my mother-in-law. And I said, I'd almost get somebody to complain about me if I could. Depends on what time of this, what time of the semester. Depends on my class, my class load. So that's a joke. But the point is, you can't afford to have everybody on administrative leave these days with everybody.
All these accusations.
Everybody, that's just not gonna.
Right.
That's not gonna work. And as far as dealing with Turning Point and their target on the backs of professors that don't comply or bend or yield or accept their bullying, that's where you have policies and procedures and academic integrity and accreditation. Those are the guardrails for that. When they had their meeting on campus, nobody stopped them. They had free access to come and say and do whatever they wanted to. I'm sure there was some yelling back and forth, and we've seen that a lot in Norman. We've got the people that protest across the street from Norman High, and everybody just kind of works around it. But to go to the governor and to claim that you've been discriminated against because you got a 0 or grade that you didn't like, that is really getting a little too close. And I was hopeful that those that protect academic integrity, especially at a tier 1 research university, they're going to have to hold the line on that. They can't let that be the norm, because we're no longer a tier 1 university anymore. And the other sad thing is that, and I said this before, there's a lot of conservative kids that go to OU and they can write research papers and still be conservative.
Correct.
They can cite their sources. They can support and there are
that part.
tons of researchers that are C.S. Lewis, Francis Collins.
Right.
I mean, there are some researchers out there that are brilliant, academically successful folks. So we're selling those kids short if we say it feeds into that idea that you cannot be a scholar and be conservative, that you can't be critical thinking and be a conservative. And if we punt on that as a university and say we can't hold conservative kids to academic integrity, it basically feed in waters that bias that they can't handle it.
Right.
And I think that's a shame. Right. I think that the coolest thing that could happen, you could have a lot of conservative kids come to OU and actually learn how to be scholars.
Right.
And go research and get your ethics. I can't even think it is where you have to register with that group and make sure your population is protected and you're not doing anything unethical on your study sample.
Oh, right.
I can't remember, EBADL, or I can't remember the acronym, but anyway, you do that.
Right.
Yeah, they need to know how to do that.
Well, I mean, if it's a X amount of word paper, and everybody knows how. Like, if you've been to any college class, you know how to write a college paper.
Well, I can tell you.
I would hope.
I can tell you because I had a son that got his economics degree from OU, and he did a capstone. And my daughter was looking at different schools, and like, this is an example. I was taking Masters of Ed classes at OU, and I was like having to do way more research. That's when I actually understood academic research. I went through law school. It doesn't do academic. It does a different kind of research. It's not academic. But I had to learn methodology, and there was this big fat book about all the different methodologies. Are you going to do narrative? Are you going to do qualitative? Are you going to do quantitative? And all of this stuff. Well, my daughter was looking at music schools, so she looked around at different ones, and we went to the OU music school, and on the walls, as she was sitting out there about to go audition, had all these graphs of methodologies of research projects that they've been doing in music. And it told me that the identity of OU being a research university, a tier 1 research university, trickles down all the way down into the freshman level, so that they're having to get up to speed about citations, methodology, looking at the statistical margin, figuring out what the population was. All of that is research vocabulary. I did not learn that in undergrad.
Wow.
I didn't even know anything about it. I went to Cameron. I didn't go to OU. But and then also OU requires a capstone, which is basically a lit review. At least it's that much of a lit review. And that's what my son had to do with 3 guys to get his economics degrees. He had to do a capstone. So they are serious about it. And it's not, they embed it all the way into all of the other expectations, which is not necessary for an undergrad degree. There's a lot of that they're doing more of because they're a research university.
Oh, got it.
And you've got PhDs and graduate students that they're working on their research, so they pass it along to the undergrad students. So my son, when he came out, was very educated, and I saw what he was writing, and I was like, "That's pretty." I could tell that he would been put through the ringer,
Right.
And like I said, I believe that every conservative kid can learn that methodology and lit review and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think that's why low key the OU culture really freaked out.
Right.
Because when they saw it, what it was written, and we all know, like I know what I did for my Masters of Ed stuff, and we didn't see any little parentheses with any little endnote or anything at the bottom. Like we were all like, no, this can't be okay.
What is happening?
No, it just was like, it was very shocking.
Yeah.
So
do you think like kind of having like our Department of Ed federally being dismantled, how is that going to trickle down?
well, people don't realize that from day one, when the Department of Ed was established, conservatives hated it. I remember in Tipton, Oklahoma in like 1980, one of my classmates fussing and hollering about the Department of Ed needs to be closed. And this was right as Reagan was getting elected, right after Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was the one that put it in. So it wasn't even open for 4 years. We're already saying we need to get rid of it. The reason Jimmy Carter put in the Department of Ed was to enforce the civil rights of students who had been in segregated schools. And he knew that if we're going to have desegregation, that we have got to have a federal enforcement mechanism. Because as long as we were letting it to be a state-by-state thing, that we would never see schools get desegregated. And we never really, as a nation, got to the place where we really desegregated our schools because of redlining and busing and white flight and all this other stuff and shifting money around. We never got it where we fully funded an integrated school system. So that resistance has never, it's just found, it's like a hermit crab. It just goes and finds a new little way to operate. And in some ways, I think that if funds, I do see like it's going to be a district to district thing and a state to state thing. I see that some states would do better at just having those funds directly sent to them and then let, or even school sites. So like there are districts that are bigger than the whole state of Oklahoma. Like there are school districts that are like Chicago's school district just probably got more kids in it than the whole state of Oklahoma. So I could see that with just some guidance that local control could be better, but I also would see that federal enforcement of disability rights. But if you have a president that doesn't care anyway, it's like it's only as good as the president that we have elected.
Right.
If we're going to enforce civil rights and human rights of students and their families. So it's always been precarious, like depends on whoever, it was George Bush that used the federal Department of Education to do Leave No Child Left Behind and opened up the horror of standardized testing. That was a Republican. So I mean, it just depends on, it is used to force a federal goal onto local districts. When Republicans in charge, they're gonna test the crap out of you. When Democrats in charge, they're gonna try to make it fair and equitable and democratic. And so then it's just this kind of chaotic back and forth, so.
I didn't mean to totally get on like the education thing because there's so many things going on right now. Michael, did you have any questions, comments?
No, you can go ahead.
I got one if you don't mind.
Please go.
Okay, so it's actually started from one of our followers on here who is indigenous.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you heard today, but Lawton is voting tomorrow on terminating West Wind resistance rights to a big refinery, large refinery in Lawton. So
Let's say that again.
Lawton's West Wind Elements.
What is that?
It is a refinery in Lawton that has been polluting the waters and the ground
What
there.
kind of refinery?
I almost said cobalt. It's not cobalt.
That's
Nickel.
right.
Nickel refinery.
Okay.
Anyway, so finally,
Lawton is gonna terminate that permit. So
Yes.
they're not gonna be able to operate.
they're not going to be able to operate a large refinery. All of that's finally. I mean, it's been 2.5, 3 years fighting it.
Mhm.
But in that fight, what a lot of the indigenous communities learned was that there's this clause about blocking towns. So the way the treaties are written or appear to be written is if an area becomes blighted, then the stewards, who are supposed to be the indigenous population, did not uphold the that end of the treaty, and therefore that land can be taken. And so what we've been seeing is a lot of areas like Anadarko that have been defunded to such a point that everything is crumbling and being blighted. And so because of that, then that can be, again, that land can be taken
Mhm.
because it wasn't stewarded correctly, even though
But has any of the land been taken in Oklahoma under that clause?
I believe
Since
so.
removal-
Shonda, are you still here?
Since removal and since they moved everybody around, once the moving everybody around, has any land been taken because of blight?
There has been some land taken, yes.
Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, yes. And so we're trying to figure out, like, how do we address this? So if I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation, and if we are to be the stewards of the space, of technically our space, but we have no control over it, right? Which we don't, then what can we do to help offset this from happening? Because once blighting begins in any town, it goes really fast.
Well, tribes in Oklahoma have a $15 billion economic impact. So they're collectively the second largest employer in the state of Oklahoma. So I think if a tribe was starting to think that a particular area was being defunded or neglected, I think collaborating with other tribes to consider different kind of economic opportunity partners that might be able to come in and prevent it, proactively prevent that. Now, if it's blighted because of pollution from a company, then I do think that working with lawyers and others to really be proactive about cleaning that up and, holding those folks accountable. I think sometimes when it comes to energy and those kinds of pollution things, then it seems so unwieldy. But there are examples of where communities of people have experienced something similar. So then I would put the researchers on it to see, who else has successfully fought a similar battle. And then you learn from them. And there are a lot of, and I think also reaching out to folks that care about, the environment. I go to lots of meetings and hear and know lots about different kinds of connections. I can't talk about it all the time, but if somebody's, came to me and said, hey, we got all these, I do know that there's one, a tribe up around Perry, all their water has been messed up with abandoned wells. And so I would say, well, I know of these 3 nonprofits and foundations that care deeply about that. Maybe they would be able to come in and help you know what your legal rights are, and then, start working from there or put together a strategy. I do have, and that's one thing that I have filed, I'm working on a bill to try to give landowners and surface right owners more rights to enforce the cleaning up of abandoned wells.
Nice.
And then also give landowner and surface right owners notice as far as recalibrating that fracking point, the pressure point. Because I just learned by going to another town hall on it was Reed Frontier did an article on it. And they hosted a town hall, and so I went to it. And I learned that they don't always recalibrate the fracking point, and they take an old number when they go back in to frack, and then that's what's causing brine and everything to kind of come back up and cause a lot of problems. So I've got a bill to try to give landowners, surface right owners, because what happens is all of those mineral rights are owned by somebody that's not even there. The landowner is suffering the consequences. So somehow we've got to make the landowner have some kind of legal right or some enforcement provision, or just like if you're a renter and your air conditioner goes out, you can go and repair it and take the $1,000 off your rent, because we passed that law. So I'm trying to think of ways that landowners could do the same thing, that they can take the bull by the horns and say, okay, this has been crappy for this amount of long time, so I'm going to take care of it. And then they can go and get damages or whatever. So just figuring out how do we empower the surface right owners with that ability to clean that up. Also, Oklahoma doesn't have really tight. Wyoming and other states have more front requirements when you're drilling, that they have like a bond that's like a performance bond or a rent deposit that when you go and rent an apartment, you have to put a deposit down.
Yep.
Well, there's this process with oil and gas rigging that some states really make this pot of money over there, so that when things are done, then you don't get that money unless you clean it up.
Oh.
Or that money could be used by somebody else. So Oklahoma could do a little bit better job with that. But you have to remember, the oil and gas industry wrote our oil and gas laws. So, we got to be a little bit sassy when it comes to trying to get them to change their ways. But there again, if we have all of the above, and we have energy coming in from, and I finally made a connection. So I've been dealing with wind, and then I was dealing with solar, and I keep hearing these people go, like, my friends across the aisle, what happens if they don't clean it up? What happens if they don't clean up the windmills? What happens if they don't clean up the solar? And I thought, why are y'all just picking on, they're going to clean it up? And then it hit me. It's because oil and gas didn't clean up.
Oh.
Yeah.
But they don't say that part out loud.
Right.
And then when you start listening, like in some of my committee meetings, we would have an abandoned and orphaned well and LLC bills. And it was so interesting how some of the committee members, they were just really quiet, and they would talk about, well, we've seen some problems, some bad actors have, and we just, want to be able to. They would not use morally, charged language, like these people are horrible and they're louses and they get everything out. Like all of this charged language that they use for all these other people that are on their crap list. It was very deferential and like every once in a while we have these and we gotta tighten it up a little bit. And I'm like, okay. Then that's when I'm like, that's why you're worried about other energy is because y'all been putting up with this for 100 years.
Right.
And you can't use your land because this big piece of machine's over there with weeds all over it and leaking stuff or whatever. So I'm like, oh, so y'all know by experience that you need to do this. And so then when I started looking at, that's a legitimate issue. You have to plan for the decommissioning of this stuff. And other states do it and they plan it from the very beginning. So I want to do the decommissioning planning for all energy from the front end and hopefully take care of some of that oil and gas problems they've had to.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We're at 8:00. I know we don't want to. Is there anything that you would like voters to know or
register voters?
And how can we support you?
Well, you can support me by registering voters. Everybody needs to find 3 people and register them to vote before the deadline. And
when's the deadline?
You forgot.
We were just talking about it
I
too.
know,
May. I think isn't it May 22nd?
I think that sounds right.
No,
primary's
in
April. Yeah.
No, the primary's in June. I think it's in May. I think it's May 22nd.
Well, we will look that up
Yeah.
and get back to you.
Yeah. So we do need to register voters, and everybody needs to have a voter registration goal or strategy. So if you're going to register voters at county fairs, then I'm going to sign up for that. If you're going to carry a clipboard in your car, and every time you go to the grocery store, you start talking to somebody, or you go to the hairdresser and you say, oh yeah, I got my voter registration right here. Whatever your strategy is, you need to have one. Everybody needs to have a strategy for registering voters. You can keep a QR code and put it on a pin, and they can scan your QR code and register to vote. We had I think, where is it? It's back here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, no,
There's a sign back there that says Oklahoma ranks dead last in the nation in voter registration. Let's change that. And then it has all those QR codes. Back there. Go back there. Yeah.
Sneaking in the back room. All right. There you go.
And they push that up so you can put that on a t-shirt.
There you go.
Oh, we had already
With the
talked about
deadline.
that.
With the deadline. You gotta take care of this before a certain date. So that's what helps me, because if we have different people voting, we'll get a different result. Yes. And if we have the same people voting, we are going to get the same output. We've got to get different people voting. Yeah. And we all know that we're the dead last in voting. You know what? I really do think that voting and library cards and reading literacy, they all go together. If you have a low voting population and you have low literacy rates, that's the reason those two things go together. And if you value people's reading, the reason why we value reading is so that we can be in a democracy. That's the whole idea of why we have public education, is because we said, hey, how are we going to self-govern if we can't even read? And they said, well, you better get on it. And so then we had all these public schools pop up everywhere. And now they talk about workforce development, which is another goal of public education. But it's not the only goal. The original goal of public education was for self-government. So that's how y'all can help me. Read and register people to vote.
Woohoo.
There you go.
Any other questions?
Anybody else?
All right. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Go ahead, Michael.
I know, I was going to say, she hit on everything, and I'm super glad we got to talk to you. So.
Yeah, Michael, I'm glad that we got to talk to you. Yeah.
You'll have to come meet her in person at some point, since
Yes.
you are probably one of her constituents living here in Norman.
Can I see him on that
You
side?
are the only, you're the only senator here, right?
Oh, hi,
Came around the backside. So y'all definitely should hook up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, always got things going down here, and it's a great way to get involved is to meet the county people. And a lot of people that want to run for office, first thing I say is go help a candidate, get involved, because you don't know the rules of the game until you've actually gone through a campaign with somebody. So.
And Tom Cole's got to go. Sorry.
Bye. Get him out.
So there's some good candidates running. You guys get to know everybody who is stepping up to the plate to try and beat back some of this fascism. Thank you, Senator Boren. You have a great night, everybody. And we will see you out next 2 weeks. We are off
That's right.
for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
So we
won't
be back on, I think
In
it's the 7th.
2026.
Yay!
See y'all next year.
Yay! Have a good night.